Hello, everyone. So my name is Alice, and today I'm going to share with you about finding your superpower as an international student. I'll go more in depth about what that really means. But first, so for a brief introduction of myself, I'm first and foremost a career designer. I help young adults develop their personal brand and prepare for careers in a rapidly globalizing world. I helped over 500 international students land internships and jobs at Fortune 500 companies, including Google, Apple, Tesla, KPMG, and more. I'm also the founder and CEO of Pangaea Abroad. I help young adults imagine the world as pretty much their home, meaning provide opportunities for students to connect with global leaders all over the world and develop global citizenship. I received my master's degree in international education at Columbia University, and I did my undergrad at UCLA, which is not too far from where you guys are. I wish I were in LA, but I'm in New York. So next time when I'm in LA, I hope to swing by and meet you guys if there's other career events. Let's see. So to briefly go over the agenda, first I'll cover the basic things you need to land a job, and I'll cover what a unique value proposition is, and what is your value as an international student. Then I'll talk about the industry, the companies that you will all be applying to, and share some strategies on discovering your superpower. So that will be about 20 minutes, and then we'll finish it off with a 10-minute Q&A session. So as I'm going through the slides, if you come up with any questions, please go ahead and write them down. I'll make sure we'll have time to cover that at the end. Okay, so many of you already probably know, because Diana probably did a great job explaining about CPT, but what do you need to land a job here in the States as an international student? Number one, the most important one, is proper work authorization. So it's your CPT, it's your OPT. Once your OPT expires, it's getting sponsorship from the company and getting your H-1B visa, right? And then there's your talent and skills, which you all are cultivating currently at Art Center. And the last two are the ability to find the right company. So a company that not you just really want to join, but a company that recognizes your skills, value your skills, and really wants you to join that company. And lastly, and most importantly, it's the ability to brand and sell yourself very well. So today I'm going to go a bit more in depth about this fourth point of the ability to brand and sell yourself very well. Okay, so unique value proposition is a business term that gets thrown around a lot, but to define it, it pretty much describes, number one, the benefits of what you can offer. Number two, how you can solve your customers' needs. So for instance, if you're going to an interview, you're talking to the company, potential employer, and you're pretty much presenting to them, how can I help you solve your problems? And so here the customers would be the companies. And lastly, it's what distinguishes you from the competition. In short, it's called UVP. So it's always important to know what your unique value proposition is. And here I call that your superpower. So what is your value as an international student? Give it some thought. Another way to ask this question is, how am I different from my American peers? Many international students that I work with, they came to the States to pursue their undergraduate studies or graduate studies. So English isn't their first language. And because of the language barrier, they're often very discouraged. They feel like they're already a bit behind, or perhaps they don't have an established network. So that also makes them feel like they're behind. And, they're busy staying on top of their academics, but career preparation is not easy. You have to prepare your resume, LinkedIn, practice interviews. So this job search process is extremely daunting. And already you feel like as an international student, you're behind. But today, I want to let you guys know that because you're an international student, you actually have a leg up. So as an international student, these are some of the qualities that you have. Number one, you're highly adaptable. You left home, you left your comfort zone. You're in a completely different country. You don't have friends around here, your family's not here. So inevitably, you had to adapt to survive, right? And being adaptable is a highly sought out skill by companies these days, especially because the marketplace, the industries, things change very quickly. So if adaptability maybe 10 years ago wasn't a quality that companies were looking for in job candidates, now they are. So as an international student, you could really tell them, hey, I'm adaptable because I was able to do this, which is leave home, come to a foreign country, and make that foreign country your new home. Next, you could see things from multiple perspectives. That's a given, right? And then you're creative. Your ideas are different because you have experiences that are different from your American peers. You have the ability to combine these experiences and come up with very unique ideas. So that could be another strength. And also, you can connect with people from diverse backgrounds. Already, it's kind of fuzzy, but I can tell that we have students from maybe different countries, and maybe you guys are friends, maybe you guys are not friends, but I'm sure coming to the States, you're able to connect with people from diverse cultures. And through those interactions, develop empathy. You are able to understand people from like different angles. And these are all very helpful because in a workplace, collaboration is very important. And you guys, by interacting with people from different cultures, are already developing these collaboration skills. And there's so many more good qualities that come from being an international student. I'll go over a little bit about what's happening in the industry right now. Okay, so in both the creative and non-creative fields, audiences, users, customers are becoming increasingly diverse. Thus, they're demanding more diverse content. Netflix, maybe 5-6 years ago, didn't have that many international content. Now, if you go on Netflix, if you're a subscriber, you can see that there's content from all over the world. And why are they doing this? Because the audience is becoming more and more diverse. Also, Black Panther was a first movie with an all African American cast, right? And then Crazy Rich Asian, I think in the States was the second film with an all Asian cast. So content is becoming more diverse. And in order to create the sort of diverse content, the makers behind the content also need to be diverse. And so as international students, you guys could add to the diversity of these companies. That's your strength. Next, companies themselves are recognizing that diversity is so important. They're actually investing a lot in their diversity and inclusion programs. McKinsey and BCG are one of the top consulting firms, and they ran a study and they found that diversity increases profits due to innovation. So different ideas coming together through collaboration helps companies become innovative, and this helps them with their bottom line. So what diversity means here is, diversity of minds, ideas, and approaches. Diversity allows teams to find a solution that takes into account multiple angles to a problem. The multiple angles are coming from you, your diverse experiences. And that makes the solution stronger, well-rounded, and optimized. So I'm going to share some strategies, so feel free to take some notes. As I was going through the slides, maybe some of you gave some thought to what might be my unique value proposition, what might be my superpower. But many times it's hard to really figure that out, okay? So what I just wanted to say is that your superpower, I'm sorry, there's like a grammatical error here, sorry about that. But your superpower is pretty much you. You all come from different backgrounds. You all have very different stories. So you're different, you're unique. And so that's your unique value proposition. So now, how do I take my unique experiences and turn it into my own brand? I think that's a very challenging task you all have as you prepare to look for jobs and go on interviews and whatnot. So how you figure out your personal brand, your unique value proposition, is to start with your history. So what I would do, what I suggest my students to do is go back to their resume. Their resume, or if they don't have a resume, when you guys apply to college or grad school, you probably submitted an application where you shared your extracurricular activities, the competitions that you joined, the classes that you took. All those are very important information that will help you understand who you are. Okay. And so you start with your application or your resume. Number two, do a self assessment. Ask yourself, what are my hobbies? What are my interests? What sparks joy in me, right? If I were to ask, let's say, Diana's friend, hey, what does Diana love talking about? What is that topic, right? What is that topic that Diana could talk on and on about? What makes her happy? So these are things that I would write down on a piece of paper and create a mind map. Okay, so if you guys don't know what a mind map is, look it up. It's extremely helpful in helping you figure out who you are. So it's called a mind map. And as you go through the past decisions that you made, like why I chose this class, why I love this class, why I enjoy this hobby, you need to ask yourself, why did you make the decisions that you made? And if you constantly ask yourself this question, over time, you'll be able to see a consistent theme in your story, right? So to explain a little bit about my background, I'm actually from LA. So I was born and raised in Orange County, but in my 20s, I went out to explore the world. So I actually moved to Korea and China. And at the time, I was just eager to challenge myself. I felt like Asia might be a big market, so I just threw myself out there. So I did a lot of different things. Like I was part of a startup project for a Chinese company that was creating something like a Groupon plus Yelp. I was also part of organizing an art fair, so getting galleries from all over the world to come to China to exhibit their artwork. And although I dabbled in different areas, the consistent theme was that I loved being in a very international environment. I loved a fast paced work environment. I loved places that helped me use my creativity. So that became my theme. And that's how I branded myself. And that's how I continued to self promote. That led to other opportunities that I wasn't able to get if I didn't have that personal branding. Okay, so ask yourself, what's my unique story? And you start from asking yourself, how am I different from everyone? The first question you guys ask as international student is, how am I different from my American peers, right? If I'm going for the same job as my American peer, what sets me apart? And you mentioned the things that I mentioned earlier. You're adaptable. You have empathy. You can work with people from different backgrounds, okay? And then let's say two of you in the classroom right now were vying for the same job. What makes you unique? You need to figure out how my story is different from, the person that's sitting next to you, right? And kind of sell that story. So that was pretty much it about personal branding. One thing I just wanted to add is also be very strategic about selecting companies. One thing I noticed about my international students is the fact that they come to the States knowing exactly what college that they want to go to, exactly which companies that they want to go to. And usually these companies are very competitive because everyone else knows about that company and they want to get into that company. But you actually have a better chance if you use a bit of your creativity. For instance, let's say Diana mentioned a good example. She had a student that was from Art Center and he actually applied to Adidas here in the States, but an opportunity actually opened up for him to work in Germany. And so he is now working for Adidas, but in a different country. So because you guys are already international students, you're familiar with already two cultures. And you can present yourself as a global citizen already, which means that if you grew up in one country, you studied in another country, then you can find a job in a different country. Currently, because of the political climate, it is challenging to get the right sponsorship to work here in the States for international students. So look what else is out there. There's a lot of global companies that have a presence here in the US, but also abroad, right? And so if you're strategic, maybe you could start working like that other student. Maybe he could start working at Adidas in Germany, but transfer later on to the States, right? So be creative in that way. Another way to be creative is think about emerging technology. So emerging technology, I'm talking about blockchain, artificial intelligence, AR, VR, robotics, drones. These are growing industries and they all need artistic talent. They all need designers. So I know you guys are close to Hollywood, but you don't need to fixate on Hollywood itself. Okay. These days, these streaming sites like Netflix, they're creating their own content now. So you don't need to even just look at big studios. Also, there's gaming companies. There's also companies that focus on creating content for children. So use your creativity and you'll have an easier time landing a job here in the States. A few other things to look at when you're actually selecting companies to apply to is number one, are they serving a global audience? Because if they are serving a global audience, then the higher chance that that company would love and appreciate to take in global talent, which is all of you. Next, are they developing and distributing international content? Pretty much the same concept. Does their branding emphasize diversity and inclusion? There's a lot of American companies that are branding themselves as global brands because they want to become more global as well. If they want to be more global, then that means they're investing a lot of money into creating diversity in their workforce. So those are the companies that you want to go for. Okay, so hopefully that was 15 to 20 minutes maybe, but I wanted to go ahead and take a few questions. Diana, would you like to moderate?
Yes. Do you guys have any questions? And do you guys want to? Yeah, you could come around here. Actually, that would be good. So you could ask your question and then loud enough so Alice and everyone can hear.
Yeah, so here. Yeah, great. So hi, my name's Annie.
Annie, hi Annie.
I'm actually graduating this term. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in illustration department. I was from entertainment art, then I moved on to design and motion.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to reach out the different way of how to story tell in different contexts. And I was just curious about as an illustrator, how can we find job globally? Because it's always freelance most of the time. But I really want to get a chance to sit in the office, try to work with people, and I just really curious how to put that on your resume and then let them know you have this ability instead of just showing your artwork. They're just assuming you're an illustrator.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Are there companies that you like?
I was looking at Netflix, and in the beginning they do because they do have opening for mentoring, you know, speaking people to work with them, working on content. I was trying to apply for that,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trained when we in entertainment art program mainly for Disney and Pixar.
Mm-hmm.
But I was asking the teacher, is any like local company that's like outsourced for game cooking too? But I don't have a lot of response for that.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's heading that way, and the teacher is really focusing on that area.
Wait, where are you from?
I'm from Taiwan.
You're from Taiwan. Okay. Let's see. So, number one, Netflix is in a bit of trouble
Yeah.
because a lot of the content that they have, like for instance, Disney, I think other companies, that have been sharing their content on the Netflix platform, they're
Exactly.
creating their own streaming
Yeah.
services now, right? And so, just like a little bit of information about Netflix.
Yeah.
Um, but for your illustration, so you said you've been freelancing, or
Yeah, I was starting freelancing. I would just really try to see if I can get a book deal over in New York. And I was just really curious because I do work on several projects that is about designing a brand and product. And
mm-hmm,
I try to heading to that area more to try it if I can find that sort of kind of job. But it's been
mm-hmm.
difficult because then I was labeled as illustrator, and I just curious, is there any possible way I can rebrand my self to head into that direction?
Yeah, I think rebranding is always possible.
Yeah.
So I kind of need to look at your work and learn more about your story to help you with the rebranding. But rebranding is totally feasible. For an artist like you, do you have a portfolio, an online portfolio?
Yeah.
Okay, and do you have like an Instagram that showcases all your work?
I don't have Instagram. I have a website, and then I have another website on BNS, like just to share my book, children's book design.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really like don't really like Instagram, but I do know that's how majority of the illustrator for children's book now interact with their audience and
Mm-hmm.
they sell their book now.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have it, it's fine. But do you have let's say, do you have a LinkedIn?
Yeah,
Okay, so your LinkedIn has a link to your portfolio.
yeah,
Okay, then all you need to do is first, yes, you need to rebrand yourself if you want to go into a different field, right? And then I would just say jot down like the 10 companies that you would love to work for
mm-hmm.
and look into, I would look at LinkedIn's of folks that already work there
Mm-hmm.
and also on LinkedIn, and look at their histories, right? See, for instance, what's a company that you're interested in again? Netflix?
I was looking at Leica too. They do
Okay.
have an internship open, but it already passed, and I'm still having class here, so I cannot take it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
yeah.
So Lightbox, Netflix, so whatever it is. So if you go on LinkedIn, you look up Netflix. You can search for Netflix and the country of your interest, right? So maybe there's actually people that worked in Netflix that also worked in different studios, maybe abroad.
Mm-hmm.
And what do? You network, right? So I think personal branding is something that you need to work on yourself first, but to find other opportunities, you just need to network,
Okay.
right? And see what kind of companies they worked for. So it takes a lot of research, but it's pretty fun. You're just like jumping around. You start at Netflix, and then that introduces you to like two, three other companies, and you look into these two, three companies, and that introduces you to other companies, right? So there's abundant opportunities. It's just the challenge is finding those opportunities,
Yeah.
right? So I would say number one, make sure you're showcasing your work through LinkedIn and utilize LinkedIn to find companies that you want to work for. Look for people that have worked at those companies, reach out to them,
Okay.
right? Okay. You can email me and we can talk more in detail.
Yeah, we'll provide her information at the end.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you so much.
All right, good luck.
Hey, I'm Luna.
Hi, Luna.
I'm entertainment design student, kind of like a fifth term. Maybe graduate like for like after 3 more terms. And actually have a question because I actually did some freelance for my friend company as a studio. We did some like indie games already, and they just founded the company, the studio, um, about like a 1.5 year before, and but one of my mentor he said I have the ability to apply like a big company or game studio. So I'm kind of like struggling with like should I like after graduation should I work with my friend continue with our like indie game studio, or I go apply for like a big company.
I think that's a question for yourself, right? Uh,
I mean, would you recommend to like go to the big companies or studios
is
for
this indie game studio? Where is it?
it's in New York. My
Oh, it's
friend
in,
is in New York.
okay. It's in New York. Is it an American company?
Yeah.
Did you like working there?
I'm personally I pretty enjoy working with them, and I would say they have really a good future. I can say like because they have a budget, and they have a really like really good tech background to support them to do the like a VR or AR game.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but for me, like I'm personally think maybe should get more experience from like from big company like a Sony or like Microsoft, like something like that, like, and then maybe go back to the studio then work for our own games. But
Okay.
like for an international student, I would say like
Mhm.
OPT and how we stay here for job is a kind of problem for a long time, right?
Right. Does the studio have the capacity to sponsor you?
Uh, I think that I should ask them.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest question, right? And if it's going to be a big studio and you are confident that you can get in, and for international students, I mean, these studios come to Art Center, they go to Carl Arts, they go to the art schools around LA to find talent. So it shouldn't be too much of a challenge if you have that talent and skill, right? And so I would say if you have, what, 3 semesters left, can't you do a summer internship at one of the big studios?
Yeah, I actually applied the studio which did the Call of Duty, and I got the internship for last summer.
Is it Blizzard or where is that?
No, it's
What's
not.
Call of Duty?
They actually changed it recently, but it's a sub studio of Epic game.
Okay. So you already did an internship there, but you have also another opportunity to an internship with your CPT, no?
Yeah. Well, I'm not, because we can do like a 6 months. No, up to 6 months.
Can you do a summer internship?
Yeah, I did summer internship before.
Yeah, summer internships are usually 3 months,
3
so-
months.
So
yeah.
And CPT in total is 6 months, isn't it?
No,
No,
it's
No?
up to 11 months.
Okay, then don't you have time left to use your CPT?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in, not this summer, but maybe next summer, wait, 3 semesters. 1, 2.
It's like a year.
Okay, so I think next summer you should aim to do an internship at a big studio. Because number one, if you do an internship and they like you could easily probably get an offer,
Okay.
right? So this indie place, you know that they like you, they appreciate your talent, but number one, you don't know if they're going to sponsor you, right? And if they already know you, that means you can choose to work there later on anytime,
Okay.
right? So in the summer, try to work at one of the big studios in LA or wherever, and then try to get a full-time offer.
Okay.
Yeah, that's more secure.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But also,
Okay.
like Alex's strategy about branding yourself, if you're looking at other companies, is also important too.
Oh yeah,
Because one company has a certain type or kind of brand of what they're looking for, you can apply that for another, you know?
Yeah.
So it's looking at the job description, looking at the type of people working there that matches what you're gonna put on your
yeah,
portfolio.
because all my I don't really have a website, but I do have ArtStation and Instagram, but all my offer is comes from my friends because they give my portfolio to their art director and they review my work on KC and they give me a chance to get the offer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Alice is like 204. I'm sorry. I know we're supposed to. Do we have any quick questions for Alice? Yeah, or you want to just ask for it? Mhm. Oh, she's asking like, when you mentioned about adding your own story, how does that look like in terms of adding it into the resume?
Adding the story. So on your resume, there should have, you can't actually tell a story, but through what you put on your resume, people could kind of understand your story. For instance, like let's say,
Like about your accomplishments kind of thing, or
no, not necessarily that. Like for instance, a lot of students usually they do all sorts of activities, right? So for instance, I was in the art field, I was in education, I was in marketing, I was in law. I did a lot of stuff, right? But on my resume, which is 1 page, I'm not going to put all those experiences in because if I do, and the recruiter sees my resume, they're going to think, oh, she's kind of like all over the place, right? But if I'm trying to tell a story, I pick and choose the things that are relevant to the job that I'm going for. So in a way, you're telling a story, right? And you're on your bullet points, 3 to 4 bullet points, are emphasizing the points that are relevant to the job that I'm going for. And if you're going to talk about story later on, I'll share with you my LinkedIn profile. But there's a section where you can write a paragraph or two about pretty much anything you want. And some people just very dryly write their skills. But for me, I kind of shared my story there. And so basically, I shared my journey of going to Asia, why I went to Asia, the things that I've experienced. Through that experience, what did I feel like I wanted? And these are the things that I developed because of whatever reasons, and this is the direction I want to go. And so as I'm sharing that story, people are reading it and they have a better idea of who I am, where I want to go, and how they might, as a company, fit into my journey. Right? So LinkedIn is a great tool. And I think international students, like abroad, LinkedIn maybe outside of Europe and the States not used very frequently, but here in the States, LinkedIn is everything. So make sure you have a profile if you don't have one already. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. You could ask her, or like we will provide her email. Any other quick questions? Alice, do you have the slide with all your information?
Oh, right. Yes. So to accommodate our global audience, there's a QR code for my LinkedIn. There's a QR code for my Kakao. I'm Korean, so I use a Korean chatting app. And then I also work in China, so I have a WeChat QR code. So feel free to take them down. For my American friends, just email alice@pangaeaabroad.com.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll send them the PowerPoint slides.
Okay.
Is that the last slide?
That is the last slide.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Hopefully it was helpful. If you have any more questions, you could email me or ask Diana. Perhaps we can organize another event like this if it's helpful.
And we'll try to condense a link where you could download the recording, so as a reference. So hopefully, Alice, if you could send me that recording later, yeah,
Okay.
I'll send it to them. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for your time.
Mhm.
And yeah,